Good morning. Today on Spotlight, an in-depth conversation with 4 of the leaders of Southeast Michigan's community colleges. What role do they play in educating Michigan students, and what's their future? We'll find out from Dr. Curtis Ivory, the Chancellor of Wayne County Community College District, Dr. Jim Jacobs, President of Macomb Community College, Dr. Timothy Meyer, the Chancellor of Oakland Community College, and Dr. Stan Jensen, President of Henry Ford Community College. It's Sunday, September the 25th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. All right, give me a one-word answer. If I said one word that describes your institution, what would it be? Dr. Ivory?
Let's say diversity.
Diversity.
Promise.
Promise. Okay.
Relevance.
Relevance.
Chuck, it's our brand. It's future driven, which I know sounds like 2 words, but in our brand, it's 1 word, future driven.
All right, very good. You all passed the test, so that's first thing. Let's talk about the role of community college, and we should say for the benefit of the audience that all 4 of you are over community college here in the state of Michigan. That's the one thing that you absolutely have in common. Dr. Ivory, I think you're the senior member sort of this group.
I think the role has been fairly consistent, but the community, however, and most of the practitioners have asked us to be responsive, to address a change in needs within the communities we serve, whether it's been aligning the educational outcomes with the workforce, and that's been a tremendous opportunity and challenge in recent years. The ability to provide ongoing learning, lifelong learning, has been tremendously important. But I think more than anything, it's been about the ability to be responsive to the communities we serve and provide important education. And particularly trying to address the new demographic has been something that we've had to pay a lot of attention to.
Dr. Jacob.
No, I think one of the things that we all have in common is we serve this region.
Yeah.
And I'd say we have a particular relevance to this region because we're going through a profound change in these communities, and that change is the significance of a post-secondary education now to all people. And you know, in the past, you know, we had the auto industry. The auto industry, you know, provided jobs for people who may not have had that much education. Mm-hmm. Now education really matters. It matters for people.
The landscape has changed.
The landscape has changed, and the demands, if the region is going to be successful, the region is going to be successful because the talent will be created here, and we're the institutions that are going to create that talent for the future.
Dr. Meyer.
I agree with my colleagues. I think it's very important that we continue to focus on the mission of providing talent to that is relevant to the community needs, and that we have to understand those community needs. And we have a very important role that we are nimble and we are very quick step in understanding those needs and then applying our academic programming to those needs. And so we're very much vital as part of a leadership, if you will, in creating the workforce of tomorrow by what we're doing today.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Jensen?
One of the key things for a community college is to be low cost but high value. So a high value proposition for our students, and also terrific quality.
What's the biggest myth about community colleges?
That they're easy to get into and they really don't have any real quality.
I would say that as well, that we're less rigorous.
You look again at the landscape and the costs of 4-year institutions. You can go to any one of our institutions at a relatively low cost and transfer debt-free.
The cost of education is going through the roof, and we are pricing the middle class out in many respects. Why And do you see any change whatsoever in this, or are we just going to continue to go through the sky? Has the cost, particularly of four-year institutions, helped the community colleges and helped your enrollment because people figure, well, at least for 2 years, I can get something that is somewhat affordable and then figure out those last 2 years later?
I think that's true. We certainly will continue to be affordable and less expensive than the four-year institutions. The reality is that we're all very affordable, and we're becoming increasingly the college of choice for a lot of different reasons. We have roughly 11 million students enrolled in community colleges across the country, which represents about 44% of those students attending higher education. But in general, I think that what you will discover is that all of the community colleges in our region, or in our state for that matter, are very affordable.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are all four of your institutions getting the amount of money that you feel you deserve from the state of Michigan?
No. I think we'd all want more. You know, it's never enough. But I think the new reality is that that we're not going to have the same funding patterns that we've had in years past. And tradition's been a three-legged stool. We had the property taxes, community colleges. We had tuition as represented about a third, and a third with the state stipend. But the only thing that varies probably in a significant way, which perhaps would be at the state level, that funding, that level varies significantly among the five of us, I believe.
Let me ask the question in a different way. Is Michigan being short-sighted with the amount of money that it is now appropriating to community colleges?
Short-sighted. It's being short-sighted in higher education. It's one of the states where that has had the most cutbacks in higher education. So both our four-year colleagues and the community colleges have suffered. I think that's one of the most short-sighted parts of our legislature, and in the long run, it will have an effect. I think what's important about the college costs for community colleges is that because we are fairly nimble and lean, we can adapt to most situations. More and more, the burden of our costs are being shifted away from the state and even away from sometimes local property owners, because the property values have decreased, and on to the students in terms of tuition. So there's been a kind of shift that's gone on, and that shift really is very, very unfortunate. On the other hand, you know, in terms of the long run, the state really, I think, is one of the areas that really needs to step up a little bit more with not only more revenue for the higher education in general, but more appreciation for the role that we play. You went back to this question of, yes, we're cheaper, our tuition is lower, but whether we're going to serve the role as a transition to four-year institutions really depends on the ability of students to transfer credits, which is often not in our total control.
One of the things, though, I think that also needs to be highlighted is really the relationship that we have in providing talent into the workforce itself through our vocational programs. If you want to take a look at really the return on investment for the time and the money on a per student basis as it relates to their lifelong earnings, you probably can't find a better deal than some of the vocational programs. And some of the more traditional ones, for example, are nursing. And if you can look at the nursing infrastructure throughout this fine region, it is supported mostly, I would say, by those that have graduated from community colleges in our nursing and allied health science program.
Talk about what do you feel is the hallmark of your institution? All right, Dr. Ivory.
Yes, tremendous access. We have 5 campuses and a university center. We have outstanding programs, dental hygiene, for example, 100% placement. We have the Michigan Public Safety Center. All of our programs we feel extremely good about. I think that probably more than anything, to be able to say we have an outstanding faculty, highly credentialed with the ability to be there for students every day is something we're extremely proud of, and I think we're known, we've in many ways defined by that.
Tomorrow there's a debate, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. What do you hope, in a nutshell, don't give me a dissertation, even though I know that's popular in education, but what do you hope they talk about in this race that has been just a humdinger of a race?
I hope they talk about a vision that includes post-secondary education in the future of the United States. I mean, one of the things which I think the candidates have not done well is lay out what their vision is for young people and for families to make sure they get a sustainable job in the future.
All right. Dr. Ivory, you've written countless books. Certainly you've talked about your own story coming from very humble beginnings. As you look at what's happening with race relations, and yet we have the first African-American president in office, what are you thinking and what do you hope gets talked about on that stage?
I certainly hope that at some level we start another conversation about what it means to be a part of a colorblind society, and what that means to think that race relations ought not be an important part of what we talk about, would be irresponsible. I think we've got to understand that we're a very critical period in our country, and we've a lot of people are on edge, and I think those of us, particularly in education, will have a huge responsibility of being a part of creating a greater level of comfort for all of us.
All right. Dr. Meyer, Dr. Jensen, let you weigh in on this. Certainly if you mention words like TPP, you're either for it or you're against it, and it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of in between. Two of you are educating students to get out there to be the future manufacturers and the future creative leaders of this country. Can't we have a dialogue without it being yes, no, and there's no in between?
I think actually that is the basis of a community college, is really examining the needs of the community, whether it's a diversity conversation or a workforce conversation, or really where we fit in society as far as a cultural force that really is a lead in creating the future. I think Jim is absolutely right from a standpoint of really what we would like to hear the candidates talk about, and that is the future of education and how vital it is for this country, especially regarding Dr. Ivory's comment around where we have this inherent tension, and a lot of that inherent tension is based upon ignorance. And really that is the basis of a community college, to overcome a level of social ignorance.
Well, I think it's very important, and it's a core of what we wrestle with every day. Every one of us wrestle with lots of diversity. At our campus, we have 1/3 of our students that are African American, 1/3 are Arab American, 1/3 come from all over the world. So we live it every day. And I have what is called a CPI team, a continuous process improvement team, that's starting actually tomorrow. That'll be taking us into the next chapter of diversity and how to live it out in everyday language, and talking about things openly and relieving some of that tension. We just last week had a meeting with the FBI and police force, fire departments, our African American students and our Arab American students, working with them to establish a different type of dialogue, but yet a very open dialogue about how do we feel about things and how can we address those. As far as the national agenda, I think I would look for our presidential candidates to hopefully talk and also realize less regulation. You know, we are regulating ourselves into oblivion, and we need the ability to respond and be nimble to meet student needs, and not having a one size fits everybody kind of mentality in Washington, D.C. And of course, focusing, I love the comment about vision, having a great vision for our country and for our students.
All right, we began on a one-word answer. We'll try to end on a one-word answer. Are there too many community colleges in the state of Michigan? Dr. Ivory?
No, no.
All right.
I don't think there are too many, but there needs to be more coordination.
All right. Does that mean, because another nice word for consolidation?
No, it means collaboration.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely not. As you heard from my colleagues, we have a very pivotal role, and it's very important that we apply that role to society.
All right. And you get
Now,
the final word.
there's not too many. More collaboration. That's good.
All right. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on Spotlight, and best of luck to you at your respective institutions, and best of luck in terms of higher education and where we're headed in the state of Michigan.
Thanks.